There was once a period of time when the cell phone, the internet, and other forms of social media did not yet exist. It was very different from the system that is in place now. Men seeking women were required, at the same time and in the same way as in other communities of the time, to either make direct contact with the women themselves or to approach the women's fathers, who were expected to live in close proximity to their daughters. In the past, you couldn't just join up for an online dating service from the comfort of your own house, scratch your balls, and start meeting ladies like you can now. No, sir. Women were more difficult to get by in those days, and men from all over the world had a more difficult time interacting with them due to the lack of modern communication methods. Women were tougher to come by in those days. Identical to what we have in the 21st century at the present time. She had no choice but to date either the guys who lived in the neighborhood or any random traveler who happened to be in her town at the time and managed to win her heart. Therefore, because life was less complicated in those days, a greater number of men were able to approach a woman first. Due to the fact that they were unable to communicate with one another, he had no idea whether or not he would ever see her again. If he hadn't been willing to put himself out there, he would not have met the woman who would eventually become his wife. That's really bonkers, isn't it? According to the standards that are already in place, none of it is required of us. People are more emotionally distanced from one another than they have ever been, and men in particular rarely make the first move to make contact with women. I believe that it is essential to initiate a conversation about what went wrong and what it may signify for the future, given that everyone is now more accessible than at any other time in history. Why are males not approaching women as frequently as they once did, and when did this begin to happen? You should be aware of the fact that people, particularly men, have a propensity to weigh the potential benefits and drawbacks of a specific course of action before committing to it. This is something that you should take into consideration. When engaging with males, you need to keep this in mind at all times. The perspectives that men hold on marriage serve as an excellent illustration of this point. The majority of men will give the decision to be married a great deal of thought, weighing the benefits of the partnership against the potential drawbacks, particularly what they stand to lose in the event that the marriage is unsuccessful. When engaging in conversation with ladies, it is critical to keep in mind the same thing. Because women have made the surgery so hazardous and disappointing, males have determined that it is no longer worthwhile to go through with the procedure because it is no longer worthwhile to take the risk. If a man is going to approach a woman despite the fact that there is a chance that she would reject him, ridicule him, or call him a creep, then he has to feel that the outcome will be worth the risk. However, in today's culture, women are socialized to believe that normal people who they don't fancy are sexual predators, creeps, or even rapists and sexual assaulters if they don't like them. Men are going to have a harder time approaching women and starting conversations with them. If this is the case, there is no reason for a male to even try talking to a woman. If the typical man were to approach the typical woman in an appropriate manner with the aim of beginning a conversation with her, the typical woman would embarrass the typical man. I've seen movies in which a guy tries to chat to a girl without coming off as odd or disrespectful, but the girl ends up making the guy appear like an idiot and embarrassing him in the process. As I watch this, I can't help but wonder why, in this day and age, a man would feel the need to initiate contact with a female. The woman uploaded the tape on social media and depicted the meeting in a manner that was unsettling in order to garner views and likes. As I continue to sit here, the thought has occurred to me. In order for us to make sense of this phenomenon, the first step is to recognize that women have various reactions based on the type of male they are with. In the end, a woman will base her judgment of a man and the value she places on him on his outward look, his demeanor, and the way he interacts with her. It is essential to keep in mind that a woman's treatment of a guy is determined by her view of that man. For instance, if a woman believes that a man is less capable than she is, she will behave badly toward that man. This is something that needs our consideration. If, on the other hand, she believes that another guy is superior to her, she will treat that man with greater deference and be more inclined to contemplate having a sexual relationship with the superior man. Look at the conversation that the janitor is having with his boss, and then contrast it with the conversation that a woman is having with her manager. All of this, it is argued, is meant to drive home the point that modern women have lost respect for males, and it is my opinion that the vast majority of men are aware of this, and as a result, have elected to avoid interaction with modern women as a result of this decision. The way in which women interact with other men who are of a similar appearance to them in comparison to the high-value guys is causing many men to make the decision to completely remove themselves from the dating scene. Men have now come to the realization that women's attitudes toward them will continue to worsen, and as a result, they are no longer misled by the feminine attractions that women possess. Men are finding out the hard way that approaching women is never a good idea and frequently puts their freedom and reputation in peril. This is something that they are learning through experience. Because, as you may or may not be aware, men have had the police called on them simply because they approached a woman who didn't like them. Men are beginning to say things like "to heck with that" and "I'll be better off not approaching women." This is because men have had the police called on them simply because they approached a woman who didn't like them. More and more men are expressing the opinion that they would be better off not communicating with women and saying things like "to heck with it." Why then would any rational person go to all that trouble for virtually no return on their investment? If a woman gives off the impression that she does not want to be contacted by anyone, especially by males, then a man is less likely to strike up a conversation with her. Men are especially less likely to approach women who give off the appearance that they do not want to be. Because of this, men avoid approaching these women, and it's simple to understand why. Telling a woman that she has to smile is regarded as a sign of being a sexist and a woman hater. As a direct consequence of this, many men have begun isolating themselves and have given up on the pursuit of romantic connections with women. It is important that you consider it from this vantage point. Would you strike up a conversation with a man who always seems angry, as though at any moment he might lose his composure and become violent? There is a possibility that the experiences that women have at work and at home are very different from one another. If a woman gives off the impression that she does not want to speak to anyone, a male will be less inclined to approach the woman, even if the man believes her to be attractive. It is likely that he will draw the conclusion that she is unwilling to participate in the conversation. However, modern women don't give a hoot and aren't willing to modify their behavior, despite the fact that it is essential to have a kind smile, presentable clothes, and an approachable demeanor.